2 years ago, I had an experience I can never forget. Before this happened, I'd love to say that I didn't believe in the paranormal or any of the ghost shit. I'm not even a religious person, so there's no way I would say something like this happened to me if it didn't really happen. I have been a nurse for 9 years, but in all my years of working as a nurse, that night was the first time I had a ghost experience while on duty. Before this time, I used to hear some of my friends and colleagues talk about their creepy encounters with the ghosts of dead patients and other things that didn't make logical sense. And I used to laugh at their stories because I believed they were well-crafted, made-up stories. I even used to tease some of my colleagues and say that they needed to get some rest because they were probably hallucinating things. The night I had that experience, I was working the night shift, and there was a particular patient I was looking after. For the sake of anonymity, I won't be disclosing too many details about her illness, and I'll refer to her as Sarah. So it happened that Sarah was terribly sick, and she'd been in the hospital for weeks. As nurses, we already knew that Sarah wouldn't hold on for too long because her body was getting weaker and weaker every passing day, but we gave her hope. The few times I spoke with Sarah, I could tell that she was a sweetheart. She was quite friendly with me and the other nurses, and because of this, we managed to build a good relationship. That night, I went to check on Sarah as it was my normal routine. When I got to her room, she was already fast asleep, so I checked all I needed to check and left Sarah's room. Shortly after I left Sarah's room, I had this overwhelming feeling and this sudden urge to sleep. After minutes of struggling with this feeling, I finally gave in, and as soon as I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah standing in front of me with a broad smile on her face. Her hair was the same, and her smile was even more beautiful. The only difference was that she looked younger, and her body and health were in much better shape, almost like when she was in her 30s. There were no wrinkles on her face, and her skin looked firmer, unlike her current looks. From where I fell asleep, Sarah was 2 to 3 feet away from me. She didn't say a word or even move. She just stood there, staring and smiling. She looked really happy, and she had a glow I couldn't explain. I don't know how it happened, but the same time I just saw Sarah, one of my colleagues tapped me from my sleep, and as soon as I woke up, she broke the news that Sarah had just passed away. Believe me, guys, it didn't make any sense. I'd been in Sarah's room about 20 to 30 minutes before I fell asleep, and everything seemed okay with her. I could tell she was having a peaceful sleep and didn't look like someone that would suddenly die on us. I also didn't understand why I'd seen her younger version just around the same time she passed away. To be honest, it really freaked me out. For someone who didn't believe in ghosts and the paranormal, this kept bugging me for days until I finally opened up to one of my colleagues. When I told her that I saw Sarah around the same time she passed away, my colleague claimed that maybe Sarah wanted to say her final goodbye to me before crossing to the other world. Then, me seeing the younger and healthier version of her meant that she was in much better shape than when she was alive. Hearing that about Sarah made me happy in some way, but it also stirred up a lot of questions in me, questions I've not been able to answer till date. Even though 2 years have passed, that experience is still fresh in my head, and it still gives me goosebumps whenever I think about it. My perspective about the paranormal has changed too. Even though I hate to admit it, I'm now a believer. As much as this is a very sad story for me, I'll still go ahead and share it. Last year, Christmas, I lost my dad. Since my childhood, my dad had always been my pillar, and we did literally everything together. My mom passed away when I was 5 years old, and after my mom passed away, my dad became my everything. He was there for me in both the good and the bad times. He supported me in every decision I made, mostly the good decisions, and he was such a firm believer. He was there for me in both the good and the bad times and was such a firm believer. My dad, unlike me, was a Christian. He loved the Lord, and his faith in God was worth studying. When my mom passed away, my dad believed that it was God's plan. When I had a terrible accident that took away my ability to walk, my dad believed it was God's plan. The man had an explanation for everything, both the good, the bad, and the ugly incidents of life. So, last Christmas, my dad was supposed to come over to my house for the Christmas holiday. It was a Christmas tradition we had for many years. Instead of me, my wife, and the kids going over to his place, he preferred to come over to ours. The only thing was, the day he was supposed to come, there was a severe snowstorm, and it caused several hours of traffic delay. Now that I share my story, I should have just asked him to turn around when he called to inform me that he would be coming hours late. For some weird reason, I had a bad feeling that something was not right, but I just ignored it. Maybe that should have been my cue. At the same time, the kids badly wanted to see their grandpa, and I didn't think it would hurt for him to come in hours later. That evening, around 9 p.m., while waiting for my dad to arrive, I fell asleep while watching TV with my family. Not too deep into my sleep, I heard someone call my name in a very loud voice. When I woke up and looked around, my wife and kids were very concerned about how I had woken up. I tried to explain to them that I had heard someone call my name, and they swore that no one had called me. To try and calm me down, my wife insisted that maybe I might have had a bad dream, but I was damn sure I wasn't dreaming. The voice felt so real, and I felt a strong connection with whoever had called me. What I didn't know was that all that while, my wife and I were trying to wrap our heads around me, hearing my name in my sleep. My dad had been involved in a ghastly car accident. He had a head-on collision, to be precise, and it claimed a poor man's life. I think 5 minutes after I woke up from that sleep, I got a call from the police about my dad's demise. It was a very heartbreaking call for me and my family, and it ruined the rest of our Christmas. It's been months since my dad passed away, and I can't help but wonder if it was truly his voice I heard in my sleep. The time I woke up was precisely the time he had the accident, and I know that cannot be a coincidence. Sometimes things happen in life that are beyond human comprehension, and hearing my dad's voice around the same time he had that accident is still what baffles me till today. Ever since I lost my legs, I had lost belief in almost everything, including God, but now I'm leaning a bit towards believing in the supernatural. I mean, the supernatural has to be the only explanation for what happened. My wife and a few of my friends have been insisting that it was my dad who called out to me for the last time, and somehow his voice got to me from miles away. Well, at this point, I believe them. If that didn't happen to me, I would never have believed such a thing could happen. I'm not mad at God this time. Just as my late dad always said, everything is God's plan, and I believe it was his plan and timing to take my father away. I hope and pray he is in a good place.